Hey, busy gamers! Today we're going to be talking about Lone Ruin. What's good, what's bad, and that all-important question, is it worth your time? Now, if you've joined me for another worth your time video in the past, go ahead and skip right to the section you're most interested in, and if not, let's head right into the overview. Lone Ruin was developed by Cuddle Monster Games, and it was published by Super Rare Originals. It's currently available on both PC and Nintendo Switch, and it tries to put the twin-stick spin on a game like Hades. In this spell-based roguelike, you're going to be taking the control of an explorer. You're going to dive deep into the Lone Ruins to seek power and to cleanse an ancient city of corruption. Now, the main phase of the game plays via quick levels. They're made up of smaller rooms in which wave after wave of enemies spawn. Once all of these waves are defeated, a plinth will spawn and you're going to be granted a reward. This reward could take the form of a new spell, an upgrade to a current spell, passive ability, or just healing, depending on if you're in trouble or not. You then pick what you want the next room to grant via 2 to 3 choices that are marked above the adjoining doors. You dive deeper and deeper as the monsters become more numerous and add abilities. Every so many rooms, you're also going to be having a boss to face with its own unique mechanics and much larger health pools. After you've completed the main game, there's also a survival mode which shifts the game into a timed activity where you rack up the best score as possible as larger and stronger waves spawn at set increments throughout. So at the time of this review, I've played Lost Ruin for about 4 hours on PC. I've beat the main game, completing 1 or 2 full runs. This is a smaller and quicker game, so I'm going to strive to be brief with the review as well. So what's good about Lone Ruin? I enjoyed the twin-stick take on the roguelike and the Hades-like formula. I'm not really somebody who's played a lot of twin-stick games in the past, so adding that wrinkle actually did build in a fair amount of additional challenge for me. It had me struggling to get my brain and my fingers on the same page in order to aim effectively. I found that challenging area to be pretty fun, and I also really enjoyed the environmental design. I thought it had some pretty solid aesthetics, and it was always shrouded in dark hues of purple, and that set a pretty cool theme to me. So what is bad about Lost Ruin? While the aesthetic and the environment were a plus for me, I found the combination of the 3D environment and a 2D stylized character and effects for spells to be pretty jarring. I also found that it often, or at least occasionally, played with my depth perception and kind of added another layer to the aiming, which was already pretty frantic in combat situations. It was also completely absent of story and meta progression. Runs were extraordinarily quick, and even if with my lack of abilities in twin shooters, I'd made it to the end of the overall game. But nothing changed between runs, no story was doled out, and there were never large-scale future upgrades to look forward to. Once you'd gotten the rhythm down, you just had it down with very little interrupting or changing of your overall plans. Clarity and skill balance is also something I really struggled with in this game. When choosing the next available power-up, I was often guessing on what it would do as it wasn't really explained previously. You can learn about these over time, but it did add an unnecessary layer of difficulty. And I also found there was at least a strong appearance that some skills were just flat out better than others. Chain Lightning, for example, it required less aim, appeared to have similar or even larger range and damage than several of the other skills. Having that information be available on the screen where you choose your initial skills could make a huge difference. So let's go ahead and move straight on to the channel focus. How does Lost Ruin treat your time? I apologize. How does Lone Ruin treat your time? It's short, it's sweet, and I enjoyed myself for the amount of time I spent with it, but unfortunately there's not a lot here to discuss when it comes to efficiency. I was able to complete the game within the first 4 hours, and I'm not going to be the fastest by any stretch of the imagination. Runs are quick for those wanting a short arcade experience, and off and on, they're definitely going to be able to have that here. Let's move to our final scores. Overall, I'm going to give this game a 5. While I enjoyed the amount of time I spent with the game, ultimately it just did not give me enough depth to go any further with it. I enjoyed playing until I rolled the end credits, but after that, the runs just felt too similar. The powers felt imbalanced, and so I didn't really enjoy trying new or different combinations in future runs. The developer and team do seem pretty engaged though, and they've put out a roadmap with plans to address a lot of the early feedback, so it's potentially one that is worth watching and keeping an eye on as it changes. The bones are good, but for me, there's just not enough meat on them today. The ephemeral efficiency score for this one is going to be a 7, and honestly, I struggled with this. It's very quick, so it's easy for anyone to play regardless of their schedule. But in this scenario, its brevity is also one of its greatest downfalls, so the 7 is difficult for me here. It seems to indicate something good from it, but outside of the fact that you can play it quickly, there's not a lot to say there. All right, that is my review for Lone Ruin. If you enjoyed this content, thank you very much for sticking around with me. I hope you'll give me a like, a subscription, and honestly, just some positive or even constructive feedback in the comments would be great. I really appreciate you sticking around with me, and until next time, have a great time gaming.